Hi folks, today is one for anyone who works in education, teachers, support staff, and anyone else in the associated groups that work with young people. We're going to be talking about keeping children safe in education 2026. So this new edition, and it comes out every September for those who aren't aware, with updates regarding safeguarding. Now, this newest one with recent changes in legislation has quite a few problems with it and has a lot of bits that need clarifying as well. So we're going to do a bit of that for you today. So the specific area that we're going to be looking at is in part B, and it's an entire section on trans and gender questioning, gender non-conforming young people. Now, you might wonder why that's even in there. Recent changes from the High Court ruling and bits brought in by the EHRC around single-sex spaces has caused so many problems because in itself, it is a problem. It should not have been done. Trans people should be allowed to live their lives authentically. Where this comes into a problem is as follows. First point, it relies heavily on the Kcsie review. Now, the Kcsie review has been criticised and questioned by numerous different people, academics, ed psychs. The BMA has even questioned it, saying it needs some clarity and re-evaluating. Its research methodology, the way it presents the information, is very, very problematic. The fact that this document, Keeping Children Safe in Education, relies so heavily on this and is referred to throughout is in itself a cause for concern. Second problem that it brings up is around facilities. So it points out a few problems in that you will need to look at single-sex spaces. Now, when it comes to toilets, when it comes to changing facilities, schools have been dealing with this for quite a while and generally have been doing it quite well. There are problems, there always will be, nowhere's perfect. But the key here is to make sure that you are not discriminating against any trans or gender questioning, gender non-conforming young person. Most schools, they will have a separate area, a separate changing space, separate toilets. As long as you are not just relabeling disabled toilets, you generally should be okay. Another problem it refers to and brings up is the idea of a social transition. Now, the fact that it is referring and trying to put people off or make it more difficult to socially transition is going to cause harm. End of. The fact that it says if you want to support a student for social transition, you should engage parents and you should consider other elements is a real problem. It even specifically references within the documentation, the first steps when considering a child's request for support with social transition will be to consider what is in the best interests of the child, absolutely, and other children. Why are other children coming into this discussion? Why are other children factored into this? It's not about what others want, it's about what that child needs. The focus should be that one child. Now, points to clarify for you. Nowhere in this document does it say that if a trans child comes to you and outs themselves to you or tells you that they are trans or questioning their gender or anything like that, nowhere in this document does it say that you then have to out them to their parents. If that is all they have said to you, that's confided in you, you keep that to yourself. You do not need to share that information. You share that with who that child wants you to share that with. You let them take that lead. That information is privileged information that you've been given for that child because they want support, they want to talk to you about it maybe. You do not need to pass that along if that is all they have said. Specifically, the document tells you that. So in cases where a child confides in a member of staff about their feelings but does not ask the school or college to make changes to how they are treated, there is no reason to break any confidence unless there is related safeguarding risk. So it specifically states in here you are not required to out that student. And that is very, very, very important. When it comes to gaining support or requesting support, it depends what that support is for. As again stated in the documentation, a child who is questioning their gender asks for support from a school or college. Schools and colleges should engage parents as a matter of priority. This is not too clear within the document. It's very hard to toe the line. On the one hand, are they asking for support with the social transition? If they are, then it's very, very clear that you should engage parents. And there are a lot of logistical challenges if you allow a child to socially transition in school, but they don't want to outside of school. Trying to manage that flow of information is very, very, very difficult, and that needs to be very carefully discussed with that child. If they are asking for support around things like mental health or anxieties or worries, That should not require a disclosure to parents around that, because you potentially could be making that situation far, far worse. We have to remember at the end of the day, trans and gender questioning young people are some of often the most vulnerable, and right now some of the most targeted groups of young people that we have, and we need to do what we can to keep them safe. This documentation seems to focus very much on other people safe from a risk that isn't there. If you have any further questions, or if there's anything you'd like to check with us, please drop us a message, give us a follow, have a look on our website, or drop us an email, and we'll see what we can do to support and answer. You've also got other organisations. You've got Transactual, Not a Phase, you have Mermaids and Jetted Intelligence, very, very big organisations that have been doing a lot of work around this for the last few years, and they've got a massive wealth of resources. So make sure you have a look at that. And if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. But at the end of the day, make sure you keep those trans kids safe. Thanks for listening.